What is happening, my YouTube family? It is your boy Zary, coming at you from Zary's Mobile Gaming. Again today, who's excited to see my face? You can lie to me and make me feel better. To talk to you about Dieselrog. Dieselrog is Orc, Fighter, Warrior, and Gladiator. But before we get into Dieselrog, if you're just finding me for the first time, or if you're watching the videos and you're not part of the XMG family, click that subscribe button, become part of the family, turn on notifications, blah, 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 blah. Let's get into Dieselrog. Okay, so we know that Dieselrog is an Orc fighter and a warrior gladiator. Let's check out his stats before we get into his moves. His physical damage, which he will be doing physical damage, is 2752. His critical chance is at 27.63%. That is very high for a base crit chance. His health is at 18,652. Physical armor is at 30%. Magic armor is at 25.69%. His shield is at 20,950. His speed is at 115. Potency is at 16%. And tenacity is at 20%. So what did we learn? He has a very good crit chance. He has very low speed. His health is low, but his shield is high. And his armor is about middle of the road. So let's take a look at his move. First ability is Cyber Punch. It deals 240% of physical damage to an enemy. Removes 2 buffs from the target for each living goblin in the party when it is a critical hit. So running him with all orcs, this really doesn't benefit him. He isn't going to be a dispeller. If you run him with goblins, this move is crucial. Second ability, BFG. Deals 210% of physical damage to all enemies. So it's an AoE, and it has 70% chance to inflict armor decrease for 2 turns. So potency, physical damage, putting an armor decrease on the team would be big. His third ability, Fuel to the Fire, he gains an accuracy increase, a damage increase for 2 turns. He recovers 15% of his turn meter for each living orc in the party. If Old Lore is an ally, he gains stuff. And if Darien is on the battlefield as an enemy, you gain Sheet Death and debuff immunity for 2 turns. So I'm going to tell you right now, up in the corner, there's going to be a video that popped where I made the best synergistic team I could find with Dieselrog. And it is not a full orc team. It is an orc-goblin mixture. And Old Lore is not part of that. The synergy on paper with Old Lore might sound good, but it's terrible. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And his passive ability, Dieselrog gains 10% physical damage for each living orc in the party and 10% critical chance for each living goblin in the party. This is kind of nice because we can shy away from the physical damage if we're running him with orcs. He'll give himself 50% more physical damage if you have a full party of orcs. Then if you're running him under a Rantha lead, he's going to get an additional 25%. So we're going to be adding 75% physical damage to him if you're running him under a full orc team with a Rantha lead. That's a lot. So looking at his kit and his stats, how could we ruin this guy? Secondary stats, we need speed, we need damage, we need survivability, and we need crit chance. Now, yes, the critical chance isn't going to matter as much if we're not running him with goblins, but the harder he's going to hit, the better. He does have an AoE, so that is also a plus. So there's a couple different ways you can ruin this guy. You can go a speed set with a potency secondary. You could go 2 potency sets with a health secondary. You could go a damage set with either a health or a potency. You could go critical chance, critical damage. You could run health, potency, and critical chance set. All different things you could do with this guy. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to mess around with a couple different combinations. Now when I ran him in the video that I carded up above, I had 2 critical chance sets on him and a health set. But we're running him with orcs, you don't really need the critical chance. So again, I'm going to mess around with the runes and I'll be right back. Okay, I am back with a full rune amulet. And I went for kind of the all-encompassing rune set. Maybe not the way to rune him, but I kind of like where I went with it. I put on a critical chance set, a potency set, and a health set. I've increased his survivability. I've increased his potency. I've increased his critical chance. So I don't have to go in and kind of re-rune him if I want to start running him with goblins. I don't have to keep a second set for him right now, essentially. So that's kind of nice. So let's go over the runes. And again, I'm focusing on speed, damage, survivability, potency. So, damage, critical chance, shield, potency, damage. I went with speed, damage, armor, armor. Armor, damage, shield, health. Health, speed, damage, shield. No, I went with the health primary on this, where I could have had a critical chance or a damage, but I went with the speed. 5 extra speed was pretty nice. And it increased his survivability a little bit with the damage sprinkled in, so I was happy with that rune for him. Then I went with health, damage, speed, critical chance, and tenacity. And then I went with potency, speed, damage, health, and health. So overall, pretty happy with how his runes turned out. So let's take a look at his stats and see what it did. Alright, looking at his stats, we brought up his physical damage by 200. We almost got it to 3,000. But remember, his passive ability and running him under a Marantha lead will give him 75% more physical damage. So keep that in mind. Got his critical chance up 10%, bringing it to 37.67%. Very happy with that. Got his health up 3297, bringing it to 21,949. His armors, we brought up about 0.5% a piece. I'm okay with that. They were relatively high to start. His speed, we added 41. He's still pretty slow, but at 146, it's a lot better than where he was at. And his potency, we brought up 33.37%, bringing it almost to 50% at 49.37%. Tenacity up about 1.25%, so not too bad. All in all, pretty happy. So let's talk about where we would put scrolls into this guy. So his basic ability at level 2 deals 120% physical damage and removes 1 buff for each living goblin in the party if it's a critical hit. Okay, fair enough. We just gain physical damage until we get up to 6, and then we can remove 2 buffs. His second ability, BFG, it deals 110% physical damage to all enemies with a 30% chance to inflict armor decrease for 2 turns. Now, level 4, we get a 50% chance, and at level 6, it becomes the 70% chance. And then physical damage goes up as we go. His Fuel to the Fire at level 2, he gains accuracy only for 2 turns and recovers 5% turn meter for each living orc. As we go up, he gets more turn meter, and he gets Cheat Death if Darian is there. Then at level 4, he gets more turn meter. Level 5, he gets a damage increase and 3% turn meter, more stuff for Darian and Old Lore. And at level 6, he gets the damage increase and 3% turn meter. His passive ability at level 2, he gains 3% physical damage for each living orc in the party and 3% critical damage for each living goblin. And as you go up, obviously, it just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. So what do we know about this guy before we start sinking scrolls into him? We know he can be a dispeller for goblins, but we're running him in an all-orc team, so that's kind of how we're going to think about this. He is a damage dealer. He is a damage dealer who can inflict armor down. So that's how we got to look at it. So for me, what I'm going to do, I get him brand new. I take everything up to level 2. I am going to take his passive ability to level 4. That gives me, in an all-orc party, that gives me 25% more physical damage. That improves all the other moves. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take his BFG to level 4. I want to increase that armor decrease chance at least to 50%. So I'm taking that to level 4. Then I'm going to move over to Fuel of the Fire. I am going to take that to level 3. So I recover 7% turn meter for each living orc in the party. So that'll be big. And it's a minimum blue scroll investment. Now, if you wanted to take it to level 4, it gives you 9%. But then you're putting another 45 blue scrolls on him to get that to level 4. So level 3, very nice at 7%. Then you are going to go to his basic ability, and you're just going to put that up to level 3, just so he hits a little bit harder. Then I'm going to come back to my passive ability and max that out. Then I'm going to do the same thing, go to BFG, and I'm going to max that out. I'm going to come to Fuel the Fire, max that out, then I'm going to go to his basic and max that out. That is how I would do it for Dieselrog in an all-orc team. Now, I get to ask this question all the time, and I simply should let everybody know, I am not a fan of him in an all-orc party. I don't like Corcoran either. I like Dieselrog better as a character, but in an all-orc party, I find that Corcoran has more viability and helps the team out with his stuns and his burns than Dieselrog does with the armor decrease. Now, if he could dispel for orcs in the party instead of goblins, he would easily become the fill-in for Corcoran. As far as damage dealing, he doesn't do as much damage as Mar. Plus also, or you put him in over Corcoran, you take away damage from your orc team in the form of magic damage. A lot of people have high physical armor, but they have low magical armor. So the only one on your team that would do magic damage would be Mortha, and you don't want to use her basic if you can avoid it. So he just doesn't fit in well into an all-orc team. Just my thoughts and feelings, thought I should share that with everybody out there. So YouTube, that is Dieselrog, and that is what I thought about him in the revamped Noob series. Again, if you're not part of that family, click the subscribe button, become part of the family. Up next is the last orc for today, and that would be Hard Orc, the main man Hard Orc. So I'll see you in the next one. Be safe. I'm out.